Shalom, shalom. Call halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shah, Bahashim Rekal Kodash. Double honors once again to the apostles of Great Millstone who told me this truth and who were well. This is Naaman. Well, here we go. It's talking about lynching preachers. All right, it's from news.yahoo.com. How black pastors resisted Jim Crow and white pastors incited racial violence. Okay, and this was a big red flag, if you will, or should have been at least, of our people that even would worship or try to worship and follow the same let's just say religion, all right? But you should have realized, our people should have realized that we're not serving the same God, all right? And this is a funeral of a victim of the Klan that you see here in the background, all right? It says white lynch mobs in America murdered at least 4,467 people between 1883 and 1941. Again, it should be noted that these are the figures that are noted, and these are what are known. All right, something like this, it's a number. However, higher, I don't know, but this is a conservative estimate. You need to realize that. All right. It says white lynch mobs in America murdered at least 4,467 people between 1883 and 1941. Hanging, burning, dismembering, garroting, garrote, whatever you tie around a person's neck and you just, like, unique pull, all right, kill them that way, and blowtorching their victims. Damn. Their violence was widespread but not indiscriminate. About 3,300 of the lynched were Israelites, all right, or of a dark-skinned people, all right. The remaining dead were white, Mexican, so-called Issachar, they're Israelites. Of so-called Mexican descent, again, Israelites. Native American, again, Israelites. Chinese or Japanese, all right. And you can pretty much count on, even with those, because our people are scattered everywhere, all right. It says such numbers based on verifiable newspaper reports. There's a whole book with nothing but newspaper clips, all right. What the hell did this come from? It's called, it was by Ralph Ginsberg. Came out around 1967. It's called 100 Years of Lynching, all right, or lynchings, all right. And it's got a drawing of the continental United States. It's drawn in blood and it's dripping, all right. It says the full human toll of racial lynching may remain ever beyond reach, all right. Make sure I didn't skip anything. Yeah. Religion was no barrier for these white murderers or Edomites. No one's white, no one's black. As I've discovered in my research on Christianity and lynch mobs in the Reconstruction era South, Edomite preachers incited racial violence, joined the Ku Klux Klan, and lynched Israelites. Sometimes the victim was a pastor. Again, another clue as to, wait a minute, we can't be worshiping the same thing. All right. Buttressing white supremacy or Edomite supremacy, all right? When considering American racial terror, there you go, terrorism, the first question to answer is not how a lynch mob could kill a man of the cloth, but why Edomites lynch mobs killed at all. The typical answer from Southern apologists was that only Israelite men who raped white women or Edomite women were targeted. In this view, lynching was popular justice, the response of an aggrieved community to a heinous crime. Journalists like Ida B. Wells and early sociologists like Monroe Work saw through that smokescreen, finding that only about 20% to 25% of lynching victims were alleged rapists, about 3% were women, some were children. Israelites were lynched for murder or assault or on suspicion that they committed those crimes. They could also be lynched for looking at a white woman or Edomite woman, or for bumping the shoulder of an Edomite woman. Some were killed for being near or related to someone accused of the aforementioned offenses. So, bottom line, these motherfuckers just didn't care. They were out for our blood, and they were going to get it. And with, we could have stomped on a roach probably. Up, get them. Yep, that was a white roach. Identifying the dead is supremely difficult work, as sociologists Amy Kate Bailey and Stuart Tolney argue persuasively in their 2015 book, Lynched. Very little is known about lynching victims beyond their gender and race. Again, being under the curses. What do the curses say? Well, let's go to them. As soon as it loads. All right, let's go to Deuteronomy, 28th chapter. Verse 1 says, "And this shall come to pass," because this is part of our contract, covenant with the Most High. It says, "And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Most High Yahweh thy power, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Most High Yahweh thy power, no one else's, will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. 2, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Most High Yahweh thy power." If thou shalt hearken. Strong's H 8085 Shemai. To hear, listen to, obey. If thou wilt obey. All right. So let's go back. Come on here. What the hell? All right, here we go. Just substitute that word. "And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt obey the voice of the Most High Yahweh thy power." Skip down to 15. Well, actually, 13. "And the Most High Yahweh shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. If that thou obey the commandments of the Most High Yahweh thy power, which I command thee this day to observe and to do them. And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them." Idolatry, all right? "But," verse 15, "but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice, or will not obey the voice of the Most High Yahweh thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes," to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So if we don't, there's consequence. Let's get that. What? Strong's H 7045. Qualala. Curse, vilification, execration, accursed. All right. Let's look at the whole entire thing. Let's see. Let's go into expound on a little bit further. All right. Merriam-Webster, a prayer invocation for harm or injury to come upon one. All right. Evil, Number 4, evil or misfortune that comes as if in response to imprecation or as retribution. Let's look at imprecation. All right. Curse. All right. A cause of great harm or misfortune. So this is what's going to happen to you. All right. So now we're at to call upon divine or supernatural power to send injury upon. All right. So we got that out of the way. Got an understanding there. All right. So if you don't do what I say, this is what's going to happen as a result. Now this thing, I don't know. All right, here we go. 16. Curse shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field, meaning there's nowhere you can go where these curses are not going to follow you. All right. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body. Oh, Salaki. 17. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. All right. Nothing you do, you're not going to prosper. Anything you do or try to look at our businesses compared to others. They don't expand like everybody else's. That goes for the same as how we spend our money. All right. It's supposed to turn over X amount of times in your own community before it leaves. Ours straight to everybody else. All right. 18. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, our children, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kine, cattle, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. All right. The Most High, Yahweh, what did I read about curse in the definitions? Verse 20, the Most High, Yahweh, shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, and all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings whereby thou hast forsaken me. And because of this religion that was given unto us by these Edomites, these so-called white people, they taught us to, no matter how we are mistreated by them, we're still supposed to love them because of the misinterpretation of the scriptures. They even took many, I should say not some, chapters out as it pertains to the slave Bible. All right, mainly those doing with Israel's fighting against their oppressors. All right, because they didn't want us to get any whiff of that. All right. So all this was designed to keep us as docile and really having no hope. But at the end of the day, this is the Most High's doing. All right. So let's skip down. Let's see. 25. The Most High, Yahweh, shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. You ever wonder why it's like 10 of these motherfuckers can control like 1,000 of us? Well, that's going to be it's going to be a reversal. All right. All right. This is the Most High's doing. This is. Let's see. Let's see. 29. And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. No MLK, no Marcus Garvey, no Nat Turner, nobody. No Toussaint Louverture, nobody. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. We're still, and a lot of us are not going to admit it because we're still in captivity. All right, and let me get let's see. Oh, and as a result of these curses, like I just mentioned previously, we're We're always looking for our oppressor, hence this voting shit. Expecting people that don't give a damn about us to actually do something instead of going to our power. Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. This is Lamentations chapter 4, verse 17. As for us, to our people, Israel, our eyes as yet filled for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. Not only could not, but would not, and will not. All right? Because what profit is it for them to do so? Same with giving us salvation, or a way to salvation. Salakia, let me clear that up. Providing us a means for salvation. What profit is it in it for them? All right. This is, let's see, Isaiah, and that's what a lot of our people, like, you even had, I've heard on occasion where someone said Edomites have actually wanted to say, well, why are you worshiping their/our God? What good has it done you? This is Isaiah chapter 38 and 14. It says, like a crane or a swallow, so did I chatter. I did mourn as a dove. Mine eyes fell with looking upward. O Most High Yahweh, I am oppressed. Undertake for me. All right. Let's go to, in the same chapter, let's see, the same book, rather. Let's see, 20 and 5. And they shall be, because a lot of people, like I said, with these elections, they're looking for the people that are putting foot to our ass to actually come and save us. This is something we bear in mind. Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. There's no new thing under the sun. All right. Isaiah chapter 20, verse 5 says, and they shall be afraid and ashamed of Ethiopia, their expectation, again, and of Egypt, their glory, and captivity to both these nations. Same circumstance. All right. Like scriptures say, envy not the oppressor. All right. And this is Jake. Let's go back to the article. But Jake will not admit that, oh crap, that you know, there's more to our predicament than what we've been taught by our oppressor. All right. Buttressing white or Edomite supremacy. When considering American racial terror, the first question to answer is not how a lynch mob could kill a man of cloth, but why Edomite lynch mobs kill at all. The typical answer from Southern apologists was that only Israelite men who raped white women or Edomite women were targeted. In this view, lynching was popular justice, the response of an aggrieved community to a heinous crime. Journalists like Ida B. Wells and early sociologists like Monroe Work saw through that smokescreen, finding that only 20% to 25% of lynching victims were alleged rapists. About 3% were women, some were children. Jakes were lynched for murder or assault or on suspicion that they committed those crimes. They could also be lynched for looking at a white woman or for bumping the shoulder of a white woman, so-called. All right. Continuing on, it says, one might expect that mobs seeking to stabilize the Israelite community would focus on the successful and the influential people like preachers or prominent business owners. Instead, lynching disproportionately target low-status Israelites, individuals society would not protect, like the agricultural worker Sam Hose of Georgia and men like Henry Smith, a Texas handyman accused of raping and killing a 3-year-old girl. All right, and this is a little misleading because oftentimes, and proof of this, what I'm about to say, oftentimes it was because of jealousy and envy at a Jake who had attained a certain status that these Edomites could not. So, proof of that, as I was saying, all these, I think it was around 70 communities that Jake had built to include Rosewood, Greenwood District in Tulsa, Oklahoma, all right, Black Wall Street, what is it, Bronzeville up there in, is it Chicago? Uh, Over here in North Carolina, um, down from where I am, North Carolina, what was it, Moorhead, was it Moorhead? You had, like I said, around 70 all in all. I believe there was some place in, was it Nebraska? Yeah, and where Jake had was pretty much had established their independence, pretty much. Like I said, still in captivity over here, but they didn't want or beg Esau for anything, and this is a no-no, all right, because despite all this shit they talk about, well, they're always on welfare and always looking for a handout. Whenever we have acquired the means to support, pretty much support ourselves and do our own thing, Edomite so-called white people have sabotaged it. Very violently, I might add. So this is bullshit. That argument is bullshit. Jake doesn't like, I'll say for the most part, Jake doesn't like all this, welfare shit. But you got to realize there's a game that's being played here. All right. One, we're still under the curses. All right. But these Edomites want to keep us in this position. All right. Because it's advantageous to them. Fight from the front lines. I say I'll skip on down from that, going into Ida B. Wells and all that. By any means necessary. Some white or Edomite pastors decried racial terror too, but others used the pulpit to instigate violence. On June 21st, 1903, the white pastor of Olivet Presbyterian Church in Delaware used his religious leadership to incite a lynching. All right. Preaching to a crowd of 3,000 gathered in downtown Wilmington, Reverend Robert A. Elwood urged the jury in the trial of George White, a Jake farm laborer accused of raping and killing a 17-year-old white girl, Edomite Helen Bishop, to pronounce, his name was White, guilty speedily. Otherwise, Elwood continued, according to a June 23, 1903 New York Times article, White should be lynched. He cited the biblical text, 1 Corinthians 5:13, which orders Christians to expel the wicked person from among you. Satan can't, cast out. No, man, these devils got a lot to pay for. It says the responsibility for lynching would be yours for delaying the execution of the law. All right, George White was dragged out of jail the next day, bound and burned alive in front of 2,000 people. The following Sunday, a Jake pastor named Montrose W. Thornton discussed the week's barbarities with his own congregation in Wilmington. He urged self-defense. There is but one part left for the persecuted Negro when charged with crime and when innocent. Be a law unto yourself, he told his parishioners. Die in your tracks, perhaps drinking the blood of your pursuer. This was in a book, I believe. Yes, it was. This very thing was in 100 Years of Lynching. I thought it was also in another book I read. But anyway, let's see. Listen to this shit. Remember, this is Jake preacher that just talked about dying your tracks, perhaps drinking the blood of your pursuer. Newspapers around the country denounced both sermons. An editorial in the Washington Star said both pastors had contributed to the worst passions of the mob. Wait a minute, let me get out. Let me understand this. So, The Edomite gets up there and calls for this individual who has not had a trial, who has not been, and this is a tricky thing because even with a trial, it didn't matter. But let's just say that hasn't been deemed either innocent or guilty because he hasn't had a trial. This preacher calls for his execution. He's dragged out of court, beat, they're being nice. There's probably all kinds of things done to him before he got to his final destination. All right. And another preacher is like, well, we need to defend ourselves. Okay. And they lump him in there. Now, where have we heard this? And very recently, this type of mindset. Wasn't it in response to the Charlottesville situation in 2017 down in Virginia? When Trump said, oh, people on both sides, All right. Continuing on, it says, by inciting lynching and advocating for self-defense, the editors judged, Elwood and Thornton is the Jake preacher, had brought the pulpit into disrepute. See, there's no winning with a piece of shit like these Edomites. That's why they need to be. That's why they need to be in slavery. They're not fit to rule anything. Nat Turner goes by the name of. Nobody in the world is more treacherous than the Edomite man. He has raped, robbed, and pillaged the whole world. This planet Earth is the Edomite's oyster. But when Yahweh Shai returns, a so-called black man, he will destroy Edomite supremacy and wipe it off the face of the earth. And that's in the scriptures. Beverly Ward says, where are all the Caucasians at? Can't argue their hypocrisy, huh? Oh, man. Earl says, and they think they're going to heaven? Steve Crawford says, more hidden atrocities by Edomites, who many were ministers who led the terrorist attacks on Israelites with members of the church. The terrorist attacks on the Gadites and Southern Kingdom Israelites by Edomites is no less than what Hitler did. He's going off there. All right. Reuben Marin doesn't understand. He says the sad truth is the hateful seed isn't genetic. It's planted, nurtured. All right? Well, you're wrong. When you understand the scriptures, this is, you call it genetic, it's at a spiritual level. These two would always be in conflict, the descendants of two brothers, going all the way back to Cain and Abel, and then coming back with Jacob and Esau. All right, it's just a result of that ongoing. All right, so with that, I didn't mean for it to go this long, but these people have a hell of a lot to pay for. All right, let me get a couple more scriptures because it's going to end with this. This is Obadiah. All right. In fact, I just mentioned Jacob and Esau. It says Obadiah 1:13 says, "Thou shouldest not," because in the end, these are the descendants of two brothers. All right, brothers that shared the womb. It says, "Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of the calamity. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity." Neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape, neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. For the day of the Most High Yahweh is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. And I'm going to skip on down because this is what's going to happen. Verse 18, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord, for the Most High Yahweh hath spoken it. So, speaking of Holocaust, this is what's going to happen to you, and it's going to be for real this time when it happens. All right, so with that, let me go back to the article and show you what it is. This is news, yahoo.com. It says, lynching preachers, how so-called black pastors resisted Jim Crow and white pastors incited racial violence. All right. So with that, call halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakal Kodash. I hope whoever sees this is edified. Once again, double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and who rule well. All right. Salutations to Akim out there on the highways and byways, teaching this truth in all honesty and sincerity. I'm trying to wake up the hopefully elect so we get the hell up out of this wicked ass kingdom. So with that, Shalom Akim, blah, blah, blah.